What's up, everybody? It's your boy DJ 730, and I'm back with more reactions of what I do, man. Today we back doing crunchy history, and first one I did how every serial killer died, but this one is called how every serial killer was caught. So, and I'm gonna do how every serial killer died part 2. I'm gonna put that in the mix somewhere. You know, I'm gonna make it happen. But today we're gonna do how they got caught, man. So, like I always say, if it's a reaction you want me to do or a video you want me to react to, man, put it in the comments so I get to it. Yeah, like I always say, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Make sure you get comments, commenting. Also, make sure you like this video all the way up. It's your boy DJ 730. Let's get into it.
John Wayne Gacy's reputation as a respected member of the community,
nasty motherfucker,
clown, was about to crumble and lead to one of the darkest discoveries in American history.
Oh, shit.
In December 1978, Elizabeth Peast immediately knew something was wrong. Her 15-year-old son, Robert, had gone out to talk to a local businessman about a summer job. Robert never came home.
Damn.
The businessman's name was John Wayne Gacy. The police tracked down Gacy quickly, and investigators started digging and discovered he'd served time in Iowa for attacking a teenage boy.
Damn.
They also learned that several missing young men in the area had last been seen heading toward Gacy or working for him. So a judge approved a search warrant for Gacy's home. Inside, detectives found clothing that didn't belong to him, identification belonging to other young men, and a strange smell seeping from the crawl space.
Oh, shit.
That wasn't enough for an arrest, so they put him under 24-hour surveillance, while they built their case and got another warrant. This time what they found was horror beyond imagination. Following the smell, they looked more closely into that crawl space. There, they discovered human remains, then more remains, and more after that. Eventually, they would recover 29 bodies from the home.
Damn.
Gacy was arrested on December 22nd, 1978.
You gotta go.
He eventually confessed, though he tried to claim an alter ego named Jack had committed the crimes. He also later drew maps of where bodies were buried in his crawl space, numbering them like a grotesque inventory. The trial was a media circus, perfect for a clown like Gacy. He was found guilty and sentenced to the ultimate punishment. Jeffrey Dahmer's reign of terror ended not through brilliant detective work, but because one man refused to have his life taken. On July 22nd, 1991, around midnight in Milwaukee, 2 police officers spotted a man running down the street with handcuffs dangling from his wrist. Tracy Edwards was frantic, terrified, and begging for help. He said a freak had tried to restrain him in a nearby apartment. Edwards led the officers to the location. Apartment 213. A calm, polite, blonde man answered the door. Jeffrey Dahmer. He tried to explain the situation away as a misunderstanding between drinking buddies. Okay, fine, but the officers needed that key to the handcuffs, so they stepped inside. As one officer walked toward the bedroom, he noticed a number of Polaroid photographs scattered in an open drawer. The photos showed Dahmer's victims in various stages of his crimes.
Damn.
The officer froze, then said to his partner, "These are for real." Dahmer realized it was over. He tried to fight the officers, but wasn't used to attacking sober victims, so they handily pinned him down. This time, Dahmer was the one in handcuffs. What they found next was beyond comprehension. A victim's head in the refrigerator, 3 more in the freezer, various other body parts stored in a filing cabinet.
Crazy.
Photographs documented everything. Dahmer initially denied it all, but began confessing after several hours of interrogation once detectives confronted him with the mountain of evidence. For someone so obsessed with preserving things, he never expected the chilling truth would thaw that day. In the summer of 1985, the Night Stalker was breaking into homes in the dead of night, attacking people in their beds with brutal, random violence. The attacks had no pattern, different neighborhoods, different types of victims, different methods. The randomness made him nearly impossible for police and the public to predict. Then, detectives caught a break. They spotted the same shoe print at multiple crime scenes. This confirmed they were after one attacker. Then they caught another break. this time bigger. At one crime scene, investigators found a single fingerprint on a car that the perpetrator had stolen. That print was matched to Richard Ramirez, a 25-year-old drifter with a record. For the first time, investigators had a face and a name. Police released Ramirez's mugshot to the media on August 30th. His photo was plastered on the front of every newspaper in California. That same morning, Ramirez was in Arizona, completely unaware he'd been identified back in Cali. When he took a Greyhound bus back home and got off in East LA, he saw his own face staring back at him from a newspaper rack.
Goofy.
El Matón,
Goofy.
the Spanish-language newspaper read, "The Killer." Ramirez panicked and ran. Ramirez jumped a fence into someone's backyard and then tried to drag a woman out of her car. Her husband didn't approve and went after Ramirez with a metal bar. He ran again. He tried to steal another car, but the owner grabbed him and they fought. Ramirez broke free and ran into a nearby neighborhood. Now people were shouting, pointing, and chasing. El Matón ran again. More neighbors joined in the chase. One man grabbed Ramirez and held him. Others piled on, hitting him with pipes, fists, whatever they had. By the time police arrived just minutes later, an angry mob had the Night Stalker pinned to the ground. Deputies had to protect Ramirez from being torn apart. "Save me, save me." The Night Stalker was screaming as police dragged him away and put him in jail for the rest of his life. His nights of stalking had come to an end.
It had to, man. What the fuck?
For years, Eileen Wuornos trusted no one until she trusted the wrong person. And that mistake was what finally brought her down. In 1990, bodies kept appearing along Florida highways. 6 middle-aged men, all taken out with a .22, all found in the woods. Their cars gone, their wallets empty. Then, investigators got the break they needed. Police found the car of one of the victims wrecked and abandoned, with a fingerprint on the wheel and a palm print inside. The prints led them to Eileen Wuornos, a 34-year-old pleasure worker, and her trusted friend, Tyria Moore. Then came another break. Detectives noticed something odd when looking into pawn shop records. Florida law required thumbprints for every transaction. The items belonging to victims kept showing up, pawned by 2 women using fake names. But the thumbprints required for pawn shop transactions, those were real. The prints led them to Eileen Wuornos. Moore, terrified she'd go to prison for something she didn't do, and overwhelmed by the whole situation, eventually agreed to cooperate with the police. She called Eileen repeatedly, asking her to come clean. Each call was recorded. Then, finally, on January 9th, 1991, after days of emotional pressure, Wuornos broke. She told Moore she would confess so Moore wouldn't be blamed. Hours later, police arrested Wuornos at the Last Resort bar in Volusia County. She didn't resist or try to run. She simply said she was ready to talk. And she did, describing what happened during each encounter in startling detail, talking herself right into a jail cell. Bodies started appearing in 1982 along the Green River near Seattle. By 1984, the count was over a dozen and climbing. Police knew they had a serial offender and interviewed hundreds of men, but no solid leads, no witnesses, nothing. But one name kept coming back: Gary Ridgway. Ridgway seemed ordinary, quiet, married, the kind of man neighbors waved to without thinking twice. When investigators first spoke with him in 1983, he played the part perfectly. Polite, calm, even helpful. He even agreed to take a polygraph, passed it, and walked away. But the Green River Task Force didn't forget him. Years passed. Then, in the early 2000s, technology finally caught up. DNA profiling advanced enough for cold cases to be retested. So the Washington State Crime Lab took evidence from several Green River victims and ran it through new DNA analysis. The results pointed straight to one man: Gary Ridgway.
Damn.
On November 30th, 2001, detectives pulled
crazy.
Ridgway over outside the truck plant where he worked. He didn't run, fight, or even look surprised. When asked if he knew why he was being arrested, Ridgway simply said, "You got me for the girls." Forensic DNA linked him to 4 victims immediately. Fibers from his workplace connected him to others. Everything investigators spent decades chasing finally locked into place. Ridgway confessed to taking dozens of lives, but really his DNA had already done most of the talking. In the summer of 1977, New York was living in fear. A man calling himself the Son of Sam was moving through quiet boroughs at night, targeting couples in parked cars and leaving taunting notes for police. Detectives had almost nothing. No reliable identification and no forensic evidence solid enough to point to a suspect. But then a parking ticket changed everything. On July 31st, the Son of Sam struck again, this time in Brooklyn. A witness had seen a creepy guy angrily ripping a parking ticket off his car just blocks from the crime days earlier. And when she heard bang bangs on the 31st, she realized the locations matched. Her statement sent detectives searching traffic records for every parking ticket issued near that time and place. And they found a name: David Berkowitz. Officers quietly waited outside his apartment. When Berkowitz walked out of his building on August 10, 1977, detectives approached with their weapons drawn. Berkowitz smirked, almost like he had been expecting it, and said, "Well, you got me. What took you so long?" Inside his car, police found a duffel bag containing a weapon, maps, and letters written in the same style as the Son of Sam notes. At the station, Berkowitz confessed almost immediately. He claimed he was being pressured by a supernatural presence, and a voice coming from his neighbor's dog was giving him sinister commands from the demon world.
Ain't no way.
Sounds pretty crazy, huh? Well, Berkowitz did later admit to making it all up to appear mentally unstable.
Looking at.
Woof. The first time Ed Kemper confessed, nobody believed him. For months in 1972 and 73,
my first
young
time hearing
women
him
kept disappearing around Santa Cruz, California. Hitchhiking college students were vanishing without a trace. Despite multiple bodies being found, detectives had no suspect, no surviving victims, and no idea who the co-ed killer was. The case was going cold, and investigators were grasping for leads. Then, everything changed on April 23rd, 1973.
What happened?
In a way no one expected. The police received a call from a man claiming he wanted to turn himself in. The voice on the line said, "I'm Ed Kemper. I've done some terrible things." The officer on the phone thought it was a prank. Kemper was friendly with local cops. He'd hung out at a police bar and talked shop with them about ongoing cases. They knew him as a big, gentle guy interested in law enforcement. They had no idea that Big Ed was the co-ed killer.
Damn.
Kemper had to call back multiple times, insisting, practically begging them to arrest him. Finally, detectives realized the truth. Kemper wasn't joking. When they finally confronted him in person, Kemper didn't resist. He didn't demand a lawyer and didn't try to negotiate. He simply described everything, step by step, as if he'd been waiting for someone to listen. And now, they were all ears. Dennis Rader got away with his crimes for 31 years. Then his ego wrote a check his technology skills couldn't cash. Between 1974 and 1991, someone was terrorizing Wichita, Kansas.
What the fuck?
10 people were gone, including 4 members of one family.
Damn.
The assailant sent taunting letters to police and newspapers, describing his crimes in detail, calling himself BTK. Then, in 1991, he just stopped, went silent. The case went cold. Then suddenly, in 2004, after over a decade of silence, Rader made a mistake that destroyed everything for him. It began when a local newspaper ran a story questioning whether BTK was even still alive. Rader couldn't resist the attention. He took it personally, almost like a challenge. So he wrote back. He began sending packages again. Letters, puzzles, maps, souvenirs. Police couldn't track him. He was careful, cautious, and old school. He left no fingerprints, no DNA, nothing traceable. Investigators feared Wichita's most notorious predator was about to start again. Then Rader asked the question that brought him down. In one letter, he asked detectives, "Can a floppy disk be traced? Be honest." Police, desperate to keep him talking, lied and said no, it would be safe. It wasn't. I'm not sure why he would ask the people trying to put him in jail for the past 3 decades.
Right, goofy
anyway,
shit.
On February 16th, 2005, BTK sent a purple Memorex floppy disk to a local TV station. The cybercrimes unit cracked it within hours. Hidden in the disk's metadata was a name, Dennis, and a location, Christ Lutheran Church, Park City, Kansas. A quick search told investigators everything they needed to know. The church council president was a man named Dennis Rader, married, 2 kids, a Boy Scout leader, completely ordinary. Police quietly began surveillance. His daughter had years earlier submitted a medical DNA sample, and investigators were able to obtain a comparison from the lab. It matched biological evidence from old BTK cases. That was it. BTK wasn't a ghost. He was the church guy down the street, and he had turned himself in with a floppy disk.
Goofy.
On February 25th, 2005, police pulled Rader over while he was heading home for lunch. When detectives arrested him for BTK, Rader sighed, paused, and said, "Oh, I guess I know why."
Damn.
Samuel Little was the most prolific serial killer in American history, and he almost got away with it. Almost. For decades, Samuel Little drifted across the country like a ghost.
Yeah, I was watching his documentary
town
today.
to town, never staying long enough for police to connect the dots. He targeted people who lived on society's margins, and he counted on the fact that no one would link his crimes together. For nearly 40 years, that strategy worked. Everything changed in 2012, when Little was arrested on a warrant for illegal substances. Nothing about his arrest seemed too unusual, but when authorities ran his DNA through the system, it hit on 3 unsolved cases from Los Angeles in the 1980s.
Damn.
Detectives interrogated him, but he denied everything. Still, the DNA was undeniable. And while awaiting trial in California, investigators around the country began re-examining cold cases. His travel history matched dozens of unexplained disappearances. Old police sketches, witness notes, and morgue photographs began lining up with his movements. The pattern was unmistakable. Eventually, Little began to confess. Not to 3 cases, not to 10, but dozens. Describing victims, locations, cars, clothing, weather, even the angle of streetlights decades earlier. His memory was disturbingly precise. Over months of interviews, he admitted to taking more than 90 lives. In the end, it turned out that Little was the biggest killer in U.S. history. Ted Bundy thought he was untouchable. He was wrong. It all started to fall apart for him on an August night in 1975, when a Utah Highway Patrol officer pulled over a tan VW Beetle with its lights off, driving suspiciously through a residential area. Inside was a clean-cut, charming man named Ted Bundy, along with what looked like a crime kit: handcuffs, rope, crowbar, ice pick, and ski mask. Bundy tried to play it cool, but was still taken in for possession of burglary tools. It was then that investigators became concerned with something much more chilling than those initial charges. Bundy's tan VW Beetle matched witness descriptions from multiple missing women cases across multiple states. Then came a huge breakthrough. Enter Carol DeRanche. The year before, a man claiming to be a cop tried to take her against her will from a shopping mall parking lot. She fought like hell and escaped. When police brought her in for a live lineup, she pointed straight at Bundy. He was convicted of that crime in 1976 and sentenced to prison. Now the word was out on Bundy. He could now be tied to a much more serious case in Colorado through a combination of witness sightings, timeline evidence, and his travel pattern. So he was extradited to Colorado. And here's where things get really wild. While acting as his own lawyer, he literally jumped out of a courthouse window and escaped. He was free for 6 days before being recaptured.
Goofy.
6 months later, he did it again. Better this time.
How y'all let
Bundy
this
crawled
man-
through a light fixture in his cell ceiling and walked out the front door of the jail.
What the
He
hell?
made it all the way to Florida. And Florida is where everything unraveled. Bundy just couldn't help himself. He attacked a sorority house in Tallahassee, but he was losing control, getting sloppy. A few weeks later, a Pensacola cop spotted a suspicious VW bug, this time orange. Man, Bundy really liked those Volkswagens, didn't he? When the police pulled over the car, Bundy fought, kicking, punching, trying to run. But this time his escape was less successful. He gave a fake name, but his fingerprints told the truth. And the FBI's most wanted was finally in handcuffs. Again. Bundy defended himself at trial like it was a performance. The jury wasn't impressed. Ted Bundy's final escape was on January 24th, 1989, when he met Old Sparky at Florida State Prison. So, which of these do you think wanted to get caught? Ed Kemper, clearly. But do you think there was a part of the others that wanted to get caught to stop them and face justice for their crimes?
That's
or
crazy.
were they all just evil to the core?
They just evil to
Tell
the
us what
core.
you think in the comments. And if you're still around, give us a like. And subscribe to the channel to get notified about more videos like this in the future. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Man, well, shit, man. I like how that went, man. Like I said, I'm gonna do every serial killer die part 2 later. But this was how every serial killer got caught. Yeah, them niggas burning in hell, goddamn. I don't wish that on nobody, but goddamn. Then Samuel Little, you killed 90 motherfuckers. It's crazy. Ted Bundy, you just was crazy. The whole line of Mr. Gacy, you wild for just raping boys and killing them. That is just wild. Like, that is wild activity. But like I said, man, it's your boy DJ 730. We doing it just like this. I'm gonna keep the reactions going from Crunchy History. They one of my favorite channels right now. And I'm gonna keep reacting to what they got. So like I said, man, it's your boy DJ 730. Make sure you like, subscribe, and make sure you like this video all the way up. It's your boy DJ 730. I'm out.